Hello, my name is Christopher Kinman, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to conversation number 5 in our Communal Practices series. In this episode, I'm in conversation with nk'wikn, also known as Kenny Richter. I personally worked with nk'wikn at a treatment center for young adults, which used to operate on Lower Similkameen First Nation land. nk'wikn and I became friends. We shared many of what I call these days communal values. nk'wikn does not come into this work with a typical form of education. His education comes hard-earned. It comes from his relations with the land and from the wisdom of the elders. His learning comes in spite of the drastic effects of colonization on land and people. His is a special learning beyond all forms of institutional accreditation. I see this video as particularly unique. I think of an idea that was in the book Thousand Plateaus by Deleuze and Guattari, and that is the idea of the assemblage. While often we want to pay attention primarily to what we call the content of a given message, with the idea of assemblage, we pay attention to the full range of relations that come to life in any event. So, with this film, I invite those who witness this event to attend to much more than the meaning of the words. Also note the pine tree behind nk'wikn, the mountain further back. Notice the sound of wind in those majestic pines. Notice how the wind sometimes brushes up against the microphone. Notice the small child who runs and greets nk'wikn. Notice the smile as nk'wikn greets the child. Notice the many references to land, to the trees, to the river, to the mountain, to the bears. All of these are characters on the move within our conversation. Notice that there are stories of colonization and racism that lurk in the background. But notice our mutual care, a love and respect that we both share with each other. This too moves within this video. nk'wikn introduces himself and all his relations early on in the video. Welcome to the Similkameen Valley, nk'wikn's homeland. Let's begin. It's a sunny day. We are in a park, surrounded by the song of wind in the pine trees. It's a great honor for me today to introduce everyone to nk'wikn. What language is that?
It's a Lower Similkameen Indian band, which is a branch of the Okanagan Nation.
Okay. And it means silver-tip grizzly,
Silver-tip grizzly.
which is very fitting for you.
Yes. Yeah, it feels it.
You also go by Kenny Richter,
Yes.
and I want to make sure I mention that because there will be people on Facebook who know you as that. And so I want to make sure that they can find you and they can recognize you. But today I want to emphasize nk'wikn, which is your true name. And I'm very grateful for you taking your time today.
You're welcome.
This project is about what I call communal practices, but the communal is much more than people.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have a bit of history in this valley. We have history sitting by the river,
Yes.
talking about the river. And today we're under the pines and it's windy. It's always windy out here. And but you can hear the wind in the pines. It's a very special sound, very special song. And so here we are in this moment, you and I and our histories, and there's wind in this place, and it's a beautiful thing.
Picked a good day to do this on.
We did. So your sense of spirituality and also your sense of work with young people and others as well is connected to land and this place. And I was wondering if you're able to share a little bit about that.
Okay, I can do that. For starters, I'd like to say nk'wikn. Hello, my name is Silvertip Grizzly. I'm happy to be here. This valley is called the Similkameen Valley. Where we are is a little town named Kermias. And I wasn't born too far from here. If you go 45 minutes that way, you get to Penticton, that's where I was born. And if you go another 45 minutes that way, you get to Osoyoos, and that's where I was raised, but this is where I'm from. I'm from this Similkameen territory. And just lots to look around in every direction. There's lots of medicines and places that we go to. This time of year we pick sea berries, and I'm just looking around and seeing some right now, and they're also called Saskatoon berries, and this is our picking season for that. We're going to be going out probably in the next 6 days to harvest, probably enough to fill at least 10 big Ziploc bags. So we like to have that on hand for the colder months, just because we cook a lot. We cook a lot of moose steak and elk steak, and my wife, she puts a lot of marinades and sauces together. So one of the sauces I was asking if she could whip up this year is a Saskatoon berry drizzle sauce that you put on a moose steak or an elk steak.
Oh, you're making me hungry, man.
And I've seen it in a restaurant, and I was like, wow, they're taking this berry in there, they're turning it into a marinade, and I've never had it, so I tried it, and it was really, really delicious. So if I could duplicate that at home and bust my butt at picking berries this year, that'll be one of the meals I'll be thinking of. But just to go backwards a little bit and share how I met Chris was at a treatment center called The Crossing in Ashinola, where we live. It was a unique situation. I never really planned these things, they just kind of landed in my lap, and they needed someone to take young guys to sweat, which is a ceremony in our culture, sweat lodge ceremony. And I've been doing it for a while. I've taken a few youth from my own valley, from our band here, and you do enough things and good things in life, people want to flag you down later, and that's how it worked. So as I got pulled in that direction, one of our first outings together, me and Chris, we went out in the land, and it was to harvest sage and to also pick sea berries. And for me, it was a different read with Chris, because he's so professional at what he does. He's just a really good person and a really good man. And what drew me to his energy was when I'd see how he would make headway with the young men and the young ladies, and how he would help them with whatever they were going through. And to me, that says more than any plaque or certificate on the wall. I really seen how big his heart was. I seen how much he brings to the table. We were very lucky to have him, you know, in the valley to help youth here, and the native youth that he got to work with and talk with. And just the feedback when I'd have them on my time and taking them out in the land, we'd go through, you know, experiences, and a lot of them would say, you know, their one-on-one time with Chris was one of the better memories they had. And there was some of them that got to be there when he departed, and they didn't know what they were going to do, but they made do. It's just he made a big impact on their life, and so for me to be here and help and do something just by sharing and telling a little story, you know, I'll do anything for my friend here. I got a good relationship. We've done many things together. We've worked on Zoom calls more lately than ever, but this is the first in-person sit-down I've got to do with my brother here.
Remember when we did a smudge,
Yes.
sage smudge in the back alley downtown?
Yes, that was at the Foundry.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to shed some light on that story, it's very interesting because I've never had a smudge circle in the back of an alley, but because of fire alarms and protocols that they have, we just were advised if we could do it outside, and I said, you know what, let's go. And then I don't know why, but the alley spoke to me like it needed to be cleansed or something. So we were there, we had a big circle, and as we were doing it, there was this person that walked by, and the positive comments that they had to share from us doing that, of all places, they just said it was so empowering to see that, you know, here we are helping youth, here we are having a smudge circle in the back alley, and that just right there nails it to the wall. There is no right place to pray, and there is no wrong place to pray. You know, you do what you feel, and that was a beautiful feeling, because after it was all done, everybody went back in, including Chris, and everybody felt good. Even the ones that were organized and putting on that meeting, that sit down, they said they felt something.
They did.
It's amazing how the power of our culture can help other people unlock certain things.
Yeah.
Introverts, my biggest example, like some of the people I've met in my life who are just on lockdown, like they don't talk to people, they don't want to socialize, they have animals in their life, like dogs, cats, their fish, their birds, and that's it. And here we have like a smudge ceremony, and some of the most lockdown introverts will open up and start talking about personal things in life. That right there has always led me to, if I can share something, that's one thing I can share, is that what I've been taught I give away, because it's not mine to keep. That is one of the most important lessons that I've been taught and learned, is that what is yours as far as experience and knowledge, it's up to you when you want to, but you do have an obligation and a responsibility to give that to someone else, because down the road, who knows who you meet, but they need it just as much as you needed it. And I think just with what's happening lately with, you know, the residential school findings of the children's bodies and stuff, and the heavy stuff that's going on, the intertwined part that I'm speaking as a First Nation member from Lower Similkameen Indian Band here in this territory, that sometimes those heavy feelings, they latch onto us and they drag us down, and we don't mean for them, and it's not meant for that. We almost feel guilty, we almost feel obligated, we almost feel like a sense of loyalty, like we have to honor them by standing up for what they believed in because of what they went through. And I believe that's part of it. The other part of it is you're your own spirit, you're your own entity, and what you do with your energy in this life is super important. Mainly because you can't live for others, you have to learn how to live for yourself. And that's something that me and Chris have come to common ground, and we want to empower the next generation. We want to empower the youth, that you don't have to feel responsible because your mom and dad, you know, drank or used. You know, you don't have to follow that if you don't want to. You know, there's always a way to become your own, but you have to heal. You have to learn how to tend to those wounds, clean them, and then come back at it and give yourself a chance. And I love, you know, empowering youth. I love helping people where I can. One other lesson that I've been taught is never to overextend. So you spread yourself too thin. And I've done that in the past, and I really regret doing that because, man, the time I could have utilized, but at the same time, those big lessons, like time being not used wisely, putting your energy into places that you had no business being, or you should have been somewhere else maybe, and you could have had a better experience. And I get that a lot from youth that I work with and help, and a lot of it's just volunteer time, because when I was young I didn't have certain people come into my life, and you know, my memories of being a young man to a young adult, there's a lot of struggles, there was a lot of emotions that I didn't process very well. And from my own examples and my own personal experiences, that's how I tie to other youth. We anchor to each other for a little bit, and in that short time, they surrender themselves, they take down their walls, they basically just show their vulnerability. And for me, like, I look at them and they're so brave and they're so courageous, which inspires me to keep being myself by sharing, you know, the raw and the heavy. And once they see that me, however they see me as a person that would never have gone through any of those things. And my answer to them is that I went to my places where I had to heal. I had to talk about all the things that, you know, tore me down a bit. And I had to be brave enough to tell real truth, raw truth, and not be worried about what anybody ever thought about me, you know, because that's a big battle as a youth. You worry about what people think about you and what they're going to say about you. And speaking as a Native youth, that's heavy. That's a big chain that you don't want to carry. And if I can help as many youth along my way to not carry those chains, just helping one person, they say that's more than enough. You've done your job. But it's like, I trust this process that we call life, and I just let go of the steering wheel. And in our language we call him nk'wikn, which is creator. But I have faith that nk'wikn has a good plan for me. As much challenges, hurt, pain, obstacles that I've been given, I'm still here. And that's one thing that I share with youth, is that, you know, it's awesome you guys have graduated and that you guys are ready to get out there in the real world, and be mindful who you surround yourself with, because you're going to go through some ups and downs, but the other part is make sure you have some really great people that'll be there for you and give you some good advice, like Chris, and some people have chosen me, or whoever it is. But sometimes the best people that we can turn to isn't our family. And the only reason why I say that is because you're separating what you want to hear and what you need to hear. Your family will always tell you what you want to hear because they love you. And that's how my mom and my dad were. And to me, that was a challenge, because I had to not cut ties, I don't want to say that, but I had to be brave enough to realize that they're just loving me, that they really love me. And to me, I say I had the best parents in my life. And at the same time, I look at them and say, I got to get out there and do this, because if I don't, I'm never going to make it. And then I'll know they'll never make it, and they'll always be here at home. And that was the day after graduation. I left school, and that was a big test, and I'm happy I went with that, because there's a lot of guys my age bracket, they're still struggling. And a lot of them ask me questions like, how do you deal with not drinking and not smoking? And I'm like, well, you have to first make a decision if you want to do that or don't want to do that. But I also surround myself with very positive people who complement the kind of lifestyle that I need in my life. Sober people, clean people that are being selfless as Chris is. Yeah, and you have to have that team. That's your anchor, that's your structure, that's your pillars. One day when you become a pillar for somebody else, it's such a special feeling. But I look back on all the pillars that I've had to help me get this far, and I'm like, I'll never take credit for everything. I didn't do this by myself. I didn't get here without help from people that had time to give. And right now I have time to give, and I have things that I've learned in my life that I can share in a positive way. When I have the ability to know what I can give you and share with you and take you and show you different places in this whole valley that I've been taught, and just, help someone not think dark thoughts, help someone feel better about themselves, help somebody, see the good in themselves. Their own gifts start coming out once you start spending more and more time on this land. And this land that we live in is a very special place. There's so many places you get to and the energy just comes into you. You feel that. Whatever you were feeling before, sad about or whatnot, it takes it away. Like right now, where we're sitting right now in Pine Park, the energy that these trees are giving off, I can feel it right now. And I'm not too sure if you can too, Chris, but
I can.
Just with that alone, this is a form of therapy in a way.
Well, and they're singing to us.
Yes, that is a song. Another thing the elders have taught me over the years is everything that we pick up while we're out in the land, like when the water's trickling over rocks, that's a song. Just like you said, the wind in the trees is a song. And a lot of the knowledge keepers understand what songs go with what. And with that, I always say, I mean no disrespect if I don't know the song yet, but one day I will. And when I do, I'll come back and I'll sing it for you. And I keep my word. Like when I say those things, I'll always keep my words.
When you come back and sing it, can you call me?
I will. And if you're somewhere you can't be, I'll video it.
There we go.
That way, it'll be a good memory tied to this special day that we picked to do this.
I am. Whenever I think of you, I think of a number of things, but there are two that always stick out.
Mm-hmm.
One is the grizzly. The other one is the river. I remember when we were at that treatment center, they had a big sign in block letters, big saying, "Do not swim in the river," or something like that.
It was like bold letters.
Stay away from the river.
No swimming allowed.
Yes. And you were telling me that doesn't really reflect the spirit of that river, so.
No, those words, and especially them being in bright red, and I don't know why, it stood out to my spirit more than anything. My spirit was saying to myself, saying, that needs to be not there.
Yeah.
And my physical self wanted to take the chainsaw and just cut the sign down. But
so tell me about the river.
Oh
man. And I'm asking as much personally because rivers are important to me, and that river is important to me.
Well, initially when I got there, no one really understood what what they were doing with that message. These youth, if they would have had access more to the water, it would draw stuff out of them.
Yeah.
You know, there's things that we do in our own culture. We go to the water when we're feeling down. Yeah. Especially when, you know, those youth, they carry a lot of stuff they don't need to carry anymore. And if you could show them how to do that, to empower them, that any day that they feel that way, they can go to any water, you know, preferably running. And that river that we see going by is gallons and gallons of water. And that water wants to do its job. You know, water is the source of life. It's without water, we can't make it. We can't. None of this would be here. But that river that was right beside that treatment center, it was almost like it was asking, like, to be married with the healing.
Exactly.
And if I had it my way, I would have put up 2 sweats, one for men and one for female, and we would have had sweats right there on the property if that was possible. Because when you rinse off, you don't just want to come out of sweat and just stand there with all your, we call it your and you're supposed to rinse that off, so when you go into the second round, you're clean as a whistle, and you're going to deal with something else you're going to talk about in there, and so on and so on. And that's why it's always good to jump in fresh water that's moving, and it's so important. So when you're looking at the source, you ask for all the things that you're missing in your life or you'd like to come into your life. And as you're looking into that, everything's just going this way, and you make a pact with yourself not to look behind you, not to see where that water is going. Because if you even do that, like I was told, you even have a glimpse, then you don't really mean what you're saying, and you're not ready to let that go. And then you're gonna wonder why is my life still stuck where it's at? It's like, because you have to be brave. You got to make big decisions, and you got to say the words that need to be said. And it's from you. It's not from me. It's not from anybody else who helps you. The weight that lifts from you after, though, like, you feel drained, not in a bad way, because after you're gonna go have a beautiful sleep. You might even have a vision. You might have something that talks to you in your dream that stands out. But my advice is to always write things down. You know, even when you wake up, just from a regular sleep. You know, because those are your hints and your guiding spirits that are trying to say today's the day or next week's the day, but you always have those, and we're not taught that. There's so much that we're not taught with our culture alone, with water. It'll save you. And that river has its ups and downs. It has its choppy spots. It has its places that, you know, are dangerous.
It also has its, we talked about this the other day, its sorrow, because its children aren't in the river. The salmon, the Columbia was dammed, and
yes,
there used to be salmon in there.
A long time ago there was, and that's what a lot of our people have talked about for a long time. It's right now happening in the works. They've been releasing salmon, small fry, into the river, and they're going to go out to the ocean, and from what I've heard, it's going to take 4 years for them to come back. And when they come back, we're going to have a big ceremony and a big feast, and I'll let you know when it is so you can be there and experience it. And at the same time, I feel that no matter what happens to our valley, how it gets changed or molded, our people are always trying to bring back the traditions and like you said, the children from the river. Yes, it is probably feeling lonesome, that river, without those fish in there now, or having that ability to have them there. And you know, there's pros and cons. I've been out to different valleys where they have dams on banned land, and you know, it does their people good. They got, you know, electricity, there's other things that are generated from the water, but at the same time you have to feed your people, you know, so there's a trade-off. And I don't know if I would be brave enough to trade food for electricity. We'd be using candles and kerosene lanterns.
Oh, you're funny.
But I looked at that and I just seen, you know, I do see the positive in it, but yeah, I'm just happy that our people are still not giving up on bringing the salmon back to the water. You mentioned the bear. It's something I've had a very hard understanding and a hard acceptance of, you know, who I really am. When I was younger, I didn't want to be a bear. There's a lot of mannerisms that I had that I see old video footage of myself, and I spent a lot of time out in the mountains and seen the bears, and I see it, but it's like, you know, you want to be like something else, like the eagle or the or the wild horse that's running free or something. But
oh no, the bear's majestic.
yeah, no, I've come to terms with all my stuff. But at the same time, I look at the bears and I've paid attention to them, and there's a lot that makes sense now that calms me. I do understand why winters are so slow and hard for me to do things, because it is my inner self that wants to slumber and wants to be in hibernation mode, and that's a big challenge. It is the cold winter months, because I notice how active I am up to the point of fall, and then it just like shifts the gear, like first and second, and I'm crawling. But top gear is usually in spring and summer, and like today's a busy day, and to squish all this in, and I was like, I can do it, because you're my brother, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for you, and if I can help you in any way, shape, or form, it's always my privilege and my honor to do those things, because
Well, I'm deeply appreciative of that.
you have a beautiful soul.
You too.
And I look at what's going on with you right now, and tonight there is a fire ban on right now, but we are going to have ceremony. And I will be saying some good words on behalf of you, and you know what's going on with you right now. And
Thank you.
there's some powerful people coming tonight, though. They got good medicine, and yeah, I'm gonna put that on the rocks, big, that one, because and I take it to the water.
Yeah.
We go to the water, doesn't matter what time of year. There's times where we had to chop through ice to get in, and we were just going through such a hard, traumatic experience at the time.
Yeah.
The water was waiting, and I was told by an elder, then you know what you have to do, and I'm like, it's like -20, really? And we went and we jumped in, and we had to jump in for 7 days straight and before sunrise. And the first 3 days, that was very much a challenge. My partner, she was very, the first day it was like, no, I can't do this. And the second day the alarm goes off, and she's like dragging her butt, but we get there and she jumps in, and she feels the power of that, and she never looks back. She just kept on looking at the source. She stood in that cold water. Her legs were like pink when she came out, after she went in, and the more and more as the days went on, she stood in the water longer. Same time, elders that we seek and turn to for help. They say you need to be stronger in your prayer. You need to be more specific in what you're asking for. And you need to pinpoint what it is. You can't just be general, you can't be vague. And those are all important things. And I'm just proud that I get to walk this walk with my partner. We walk a clean and sober life. I'm just over 10 years sober and clean. And it doesn't feel that long, but I've been walking a good walk, and it's due to my culture that pulled me out of my ditch. And I didn't know I could turn to it sooner, but I was in my 30s when I turned my life around. And that's something I tell these youth, is that, you know, there's a certain part where we are innocent and we can have fun, just as I hear these little ones over on my shoulder. They're just in play mode. Life isn't anything but fun right now. And then there's that part in your life where things happen, traumas, accidents, big things. And when we take them to gather medicines, and then we take them to get, hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Got a little visitor with us.
Yeah, go fast.
There we go. That was a fun interlude.
Very much. They just have the power to help themselves now. And I share what I can, and I'll take as many youth with me as I can. I've had some pretty hard stories, and I don't know if we're going to get into those today, but I'm living proof that I've died twice in my life. There was a time where I didn't want to be here either, and I've overcome that. So there's a lot of different scenarios and situations I've been in that I relate really well with youth. So it's important that we can get to this meeting ground and have these kind of talks and just share positive things through the traumas, through the healing, through the time on the land, and why this is such an important place. I'd say within the last 2 years, and I don't think it's just COVID, but our population is growing fast here. Like, you see a lot of homes being built, but you also see a lot that were for sale now being sold. And a lot of people are moving from big areas to move here, and as you can look around, if you did a panel, you'd see what we see.
I have a friend in Kelowna.
Yeah.
A friend, he was a childhood friend of mine. I hadn't seen him since I was a child.
Wow.
And he came to Penticton to say hi. You know, that's what Facebook does. I call Facebook sometimes the new smoke signals.
Yes.
Because we connect together, you know. But, and he just came down and visited with me. It was lovely. And he says he's bought land in this area.
Oh, wow.
And he says he feels he needs to do, he needs some knowledge about this land and know what to do with it. And I said, call my friend Kenny.
Yeah.
And I gave him your number.
Okay.
I don't think he's gotten to that yet, probably.
Wherever I can.
But
it'll be fun.
I told him you were deeply connected to the land, and both personally and ancestrally.
Yes.
And you'll have some wisdom on it, so hopefully he will.
Well, if he needs a boost, I can phone him and say, hey, Chris said you're moving to the area, you wanted to know...
Oh, do you want me to give you his number?
Yeah, you can give him his number. Give him the lay of the land, and
yeah,
it makes it a lot easier.
Now, we've talked about the river, we've talked about the trees, we've talked about the bear. But from the angle I'm at,
yeah,
there's this mountain.
Oh, K Mountain. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a K.
Yeah, yeah.
When I was a kid, I dad would always tell me that I told him that that's my mountain. Ever since I was little, yeah. No, for me,
Yeah.
we'd be on long road trips, and as soon as you come around the valley here, or you're coming over from the pass, and you see that mountain, you know you're home.
Yeah.
And it's such a comforting feeling, but a lot of people don't know about that mountain, but there's areas that we would send our warriors to fast and go up and pray. There's puberty training that people would send youth to in different areas, and not to take away from this mountain. There's one across from where I live, and it's been more and more on my healing journey. My intuition has gone up, and something was telling me to climb this mountain, so I go climb this mountain, and sure enough, I find one of our places that we'd send our warriors to.
Oh, wow.
Like it, no kidding, it had steps in the rocks all the way up.
Yeah.
Like probably about yay wide, and just enough to put 2 feet on and stand each way up. And it went to the top, and then at the very top of the staircase was this flat tabletop rock that was just round and smooth, but it was probably be about 40 feet wide by 60 feet long, and it went and nosed out on a cliff. And then about 10 feet this way of the cliff, there was a sea bush that has grown through the rock and was out in the middle of this cliff. And I tell you though, it was such a spiritual feeling, because I was with this younger guy that I went hiking with, and I don't know, we had a good strong spiritual connection, but when I was telling him, we got to the top of the stairs, it was the first time it's ever happened on the land for me, and I was probably in my late 20s, and I could hear like powwow music, like I had earbuds in and I could hear it, and he couldn't hear it, and he's like, well, what does it sound like? And I was like, I don't know, I'm not a singer, I didn't know how to do all that yet. And he's like, come on bro, he's like, just hum it and then sing it and I'll back you up. And it came to me, I sang a few verses, and then the wind and everything, like, you know how windy it is here, it was just like quiet, eerie quiet, like everything, all the world turned off. And I was just sitting there, my heart's starting to pump, because I'm like thinking something's gonna show itself, or something's gonna happen. And we just basically stood there in silence. I took one step and I stepped onto this tabletop rock, and I just felt the energy. I felt it like something like maybe my bloodline or my ancestors or my specific ancestors were there before. Because when I put my foot on that, it was just like, and then all the sound came back, and I took another step, walked on, and my friend there, he walked behind me onto the tabletop rock, and he's kind of science, so he was just more looking at things that stood out to him, like behind you after you're at the cliff and you turn around. It was like someone made this countertop, like it was about waist high, but it was nice. But you could see someone took tools and chiseled the top and made it flat, and it was maybe like where they prepared food or whatnot. And it's a long ways up there. Like, I don't think I'd ever find it again, but I was told by elders that I'll never find it again. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because that was for you to experience, and that was for what it was.
Yeah.
And sometimes the mountains, they'll do stuff to hide it. And those are real truths. Those are real stories that, if you haven't gone through it, that kind of stuff exists. That's why we go fast in the mountains. You look at how much a mountain holds. Like, you see all the trees, you see how much rock, like what kind of weight they're holding, and they can take what you need to let go up there too. And those mountains, I haven't climbed this one yet, but it is on the to-do list. I've looked at 3 different ways.
You're not going straight up, that's for sure.
No, but I've been in a helicopter coming from that direction, and when you come over and like the ground's not there anymore, and it's just it's a different feeling, because the helicopter I was in had a clear floor, glass floor.
Oh, that'd be fun.
And my stomach was in my throat, and I was like, oh, and he kind of went down a bit, and then we turned around, and just seeing the lay of the land up there is beautiful. Like, if I could be a helicopter pilot, that would be my choice.
Oh, wow.
How much you could see.
Yeah.
You can go any direction and just document things in a different way. But that mountain, it can hold whatever you need to let go. And you can always turn to Big Brother, and that's what I've been told.
Mountain's Big Brother.
Mountain's Big Brother. And water's feminine, so that's your sister or your auntie or grandmother, mother. When I go to the mountains, sometimes another important lesson that is just standing out right now is we hang on to a lot of stuff sometimes, and we'll hang on to it for way too many years than we should. And when you get to witness like a landslide or a rock slide or a mudslide, that's a good reminder. It doesn't matter how big or small you are, it's necessary to let go of things sometimes. And when I've witnessed some of them, I'm just sitting there in awe. And what it has reminded me, and what I've shared with the youth at the treatment center, was you have to make peace with that. And when you see, even if you just watched a video of a landslide, a rock slide, you get the symbolism of what that's going to feel like for you. You're going to feel a lot lighter. You're going to feel like, yeah, I should have let go of that probably 10 years ago. And right now there's another youth that I've been talking to this last week more than ever, and he was actually at the treatment center. And that's one of the things we're talking about right now, is letting go, and how much he's finding value in that, and he wished he did it 5 years ago. And I'm like, man, you're a spring chicken. I would have done it if I'd known too. But don't be hard on yourself. Trust this process. You're doing great. For as young as you are, you got your whole life ahead of you. He's not even a quarter of a century old yet. So he's waking up a lot sooner, and he's going to be doing good things. He wants to go to school. He wants to do something important for his family. He has a soft spot for the Native people. He cares about the truths that are surfacing right now, and he really wants to make an impact and show that non-Native people care. Non-Native people have the Natives' backs, and non-Native people do know what's right and wrong, and can speak up and say, hey, stop doing that.
I've seen a lot of that lately.
Yeah, and that's speaking in my spirit.
So in that tradition and vein, and we touched on this a bit, but I thought I'd just bring it up again. Your work touches Indigenous youth and non-Indigenous youth alike.
I don't see the skin color. I just see
I
see the spirit.
Yeah. And it's always moved me about your work.
I'm gonna say one thing that I probably haven't said to you yet. I didn't become status until 85. So I didn't know any different. And that'll always sit with me.
Right.
And I was just a kid.
Yeah.
And everything was great up until grade 8. After grade 8, all my friends that I was friends with in grade 7 and elementary school with, it all changed. Like, I wasn't even late when I got there. I got there like probably with 25 minutes to go to get to class and stuff. And I go and look at my friends I was hanging out just with that summer, and they're already in a certain type of group of people or a clique or whatever, and I'm just like in the wind. And I was already categorized at that point.
Yeah.
That I was Native, and I was like, I don't even know what that means, and I don't know why that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But where I grew up, I was the only Native at that school. And just down the road, probably not even half an hour, if I went to school there, things would have been different. But my parents believed by raising us off reserve, there was a lot of stuff that we didn't have to go through, and they're trying to shield us the best they could. And it did. It brought me different challenges. And I was like a teddy bear before grade 8. Grade 8 to 12 was my pecking order years. And what I mean by that is I got in a lot of scraps and fights over stuff to deal with things that I found out later that were really bad. I didn't know what the word racism was. I didn't know what some of the racial slurs that were said. I was like, what's that? You know, I'm totally oblivious. But it hit me so hard in my heart from the people that I called my friends, and then they alienated me to be a part of another group, and it was like the hardest 4 years of my life. Grade 8 to 10 was nothing but fighting, detentions, getting in trouble. My mom was just on me all the time. And it was a hidden blessing because the principal, who is also the basketball coach, like, I'm 6'2", I'm pretty much the same height I was in high school, and he just thought I was a good fit to his basketball team. So instead of detention, he gave me the option to go play and practice with the senior boys and the junior boys, and I didn't really know how to play basketball. I learned in those years, but that's what saved me. That principal, he came into my life at a time where I didn't have my dad with me. My dad was working on himself, and it was just me, my mom, and my 2 sisters. But I tell you, I was on a bad path. And so when, you know, I was talking about earlier, when people come into your life and make a big difference.
Yeah.
I've had those people.
Yeah.
You know, that stepped up, they didn't have to. You know, there's certain teachers that stepped up and that they were good to me. Some of them found out that I was good at certain subjects, and they would just find a way, and then I'd understand it. And once I understand things, I take to fish like a fish to water. And I don't know why that came up, but I just wanted to share with you that, you know, that obstacle in my life almost took me down the black road. That was almost my black road experience. So when I share that with the youth, they know what that feels like, especially the Native youth. And like, well, what did you do? Did you know? And I'm like, some of it, yes, because that's your animal spirit. And for me, I didn't know I was a bear, but that helped, you know, make me a little more tough. But it made me feel like I could look after myself. So sharing that with those youth, a lot of them don't even know what their animal is. So there's this one girl that came through treatment, and I told her, I was like, I don't know what your animal spirit is, but you remind me of a honey badger. And she just starts laughing. So we get on the internet and we start looking up and showing her pictures of what a honey badger is and doing the profile and everything. And she's like, yep.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But, you know, to that degree, it could have been Wolverine or just a regular badger, but she's small, and once she's had enough you don't want to be in the vicinity.
I can see that.
Yeah, but it's important when you give youth a starting point like that, because then they understand why their behaviors are coming out and why their challenges happen, and then why they're really good at these things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you guys are all got special gifts. Closing words I would say right now. I've learned to become one with the land, which allows me to become one with myself and respect myself, because I respect this land so much. And that's something that comes with time. And I didn't get it right away. You know, when I see other people's garbage, I pick it up. Like I have stuff in my truck right now when I'm on the land. And I respect the land so much. I don't want it to ever change. I don't want it to be abused. I don't want it to be... When you respect the land, you're going to respect yourself. That's what I'd like to leave at.
Those are good words, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Love you.
Love you.